So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're currently listening to our podcast. My name is Al Mina, concept author of Face Economics, which is the utilization of the social media platform in economic development worldwide. Today is February the 16th, 9:50 p.m. In the U.S. East Coast, and I would like to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. And if you're in the US, I believe tomorrow is going to be the President's Day. So it's technically a holiday tomorrow. With this being said, folks, as most of you are aware of, I've been following the case of Mr. Gonzalo Lira. I started basically try to pay attention to what was going on with his case. When I first heard about Mr. Gonzalo Lira's story a few years ago. So my first podcast on him was basically trying to plead and request for Mr. Zelensky to release him and show mercy to his family and children that are both young infant children and basically pardoning their father. Basically, Mr. Lira was, just trying his very best to de-escalate the situation between Russia and Ukraine. He was, you know, uh, basically sharing information that he's came across from, news sources uh, within Ukraine and also abroad. Basically, he was, sharing information that he thought would be relevant in helping, preserve peace in Ukraine and de-escalate the war. Unfortunately, that wasn't how he was viewed by the Zelensky government. So he was arrested and basically, ended up perishing while in captivity in Ukraine. So Mr. Lira came from a minority background. He's a Hispanic-American, former journalist and YouTuber, and basically he's very passionate about preserving peace. As I understand his overall predicament after he posted several videos on his YouTube channel stating that his main priority and reasoning behind him posting uh, those content on his YouTube channel was to, hopefully de-escalate the war between Russia and Ukraine, back in 2022. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, he was misinterpreted. But I would, kind of think that given that Ukraine is supposed to be a democratic society, that his freedom of speech would be respected and his human rights, honored, um, and just let him out of the country. But that wasn't the case. He wasn't allowed to leave Ukraine, and eventually he ended up perishing uh, in Ukraine. So I started this petition a few days ago, which is basically to request for the Trump administration and the U.S. State Department to investigate, the arrest and the death of Mr. Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine while in captivity. So you can find our petition on change.org, and it's titled "Demand Trump Administration to Investigate the Arrest and Death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine." Again, that web address where you can find our petition is at change.org. Demand Trump administration to investigate the arrest and death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine. I'm going to share the link at the bottom of this video blog and also on our podcast. So it's going to be a little bit different for this evening. I had intended to talk about a different issue, but since Mr. Lira's birthday is coming up, and also till to this day, there isn't any form of closure regarding his case for his, two children. I feel for his family and for his two children that will never get to know their father. Okay, folks, who just simply wanted to de-escalate a conflict that could have been prevented. Um, but here we are today. So this is our petition: demand Trump administration to investigate the arrest and death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine, and it will show you the decision makers that would have to make a decision pertaining to pursuing this case. Obviously, Mr. Donald Trump is one of the decision makers um, to this petition, and he's most likely going to forward this case to the State Department and potentially the Department of Justice. So the issues provided on the petition, I am the petition starter, obviously. So Mr. Donald Trump and possibly Mr. James Vance would be the initial decision makers prior to having this case transferred to the State Department. So some of the supporters have commented at the bottom section of our petition. Many of Mr. Lira's supporters and fellow Americans and those that sympathize with his overall faith and also feel really bad for his children and family. He's got two little children. Imagine them growing up not knowing what it's like to be with their father. They're just going to basically see his YouTube channel and video asking for help from the then Biden-Harris administration and people that would have had the authority and power to assist Mr. Gonzalo Lira. As I mentioned, even I myself had requested for Mr. Zelensky to release Mr. Gonzalo Lira, but obviously my voice wasn't heard, and everything that we've been trying to do to basically support Mr. Lira's release via various channels fell on deaf ear, and unfortunately he ended up perishing while in captivity in Ukraine. Given that he was simply trying to prevent more lives being snuffed out and escalate the war between Russia and Ukraine. And he basically gave his life for peace. And as most of you know, I am a former U.S. Peace Corps volunteer in that region. And when I heard about Mr. Gonzalo's story, it basically triggered this sense of compassion for me, because I know what it's like to be in a country by yourself. And I know what it's like to, not get the support that you need while you're overseas. So with this said, folks, I ask and implore everyone that hears this voice and watch our video to please consider signing our petition. Okay, folks, or simply share it, or opine on it if you don't feel compelled to sign. Simply reflect on the case. See if it's a just case. You see if it's worthy of justice, and let people know about it. We simply don't want this kind of situations happening, not only to Americans, but anywhere, anyone, regardless of their citizenship. We need to preserve human rights in this world, folks, and protect freedom of speech, as well as our ability for dissent. Okay, folks, these are the pillars of democracy. Okay. We need to protect these very, very valuable social, contracts, okay, among our societies and various communities. So again, my name is Almina with the Basic Economics podcast, and simply read some of these materials that are being shared by our signatories. Basically, as they recall um, Mr. Gonzalo Lira's story. So hopefully it was. With this podcast short for this evening, I just simply would like to provoke your thought and compel you to, basically stand up for what is right, stand up for justice, stand up for the truth, you know, protect human rights, protect our freedom of speech, preserve democracy. Okay, folks, things are changing fast in this world, but we need to hold on to our basic truth. And those basic truths will lead us to a much better world, to a much peaceful world, and prosperity to all of us. Okay, folks. With this said, my name is Al Mina. Thank you for your time. Take care.